What is going on, my Bob Nation? I am Bob's Baldroid, and I am back with another video. And in this video, I have another deck battle video going on here. So in this video, we have a Machamp Ariados deck that my opponent is playing on the left, and I am playing my Gengar Trevenant deck that right now is for expanded, but soon will be a standard format deck. So I won the coin roll, not the coin roll, but the coin toss or die roll in this situation here. So I will be going first. Always the better scenario in a Gengar Trevenant deck, as you want to block your opponent out of item cards as soon as you can, and doing that first turn is really great. So I do start out with the Wobbuffet, but I do get the Gengar down there, as well as the Phantom, which is really important, and I'll Trainer's Mail. So my opponent does start with the Machamp, which is a better start there. We'll see that I'll grab a Professor Sycamore from the Trainer's Mail. And really in this case, I really didn't want to start with that Wobbuffet, mainly because it doesn't really help me in this situation. I mean, yes, my opponent does run Ariados, but to attack, I have to poison the opponent. So, Ariados really doesn't do much in this situation here. So, there. But we do see that I get the Wally first turn, which is very important, especially in this deck here. And we see that Trevenant drop down, and that Wobbuffet does have that Floatstone on it, so we'll be able to retreat and go straight in. I'll be able to go straight into that Trevenant there and lock my opponent out of item cards. And it doesn't appear that my opponent has any draw supporter cards, and he only has, it looks like, oh, he does draw a Lysander though, so he's going to Lysander something up. So Lysander up to Gengar. So now item cards are back, and this is really one of the weaknesses of the deck here that really shows, is that Lysander really hurts this deck, because with decks like Seismitoad, where you attack for the rest of the turn, your opponent cannot play any item cards. There is no way around it. Unless there isn't, really. There's no way around it. And with the Trevenant here, it can be Lysander around, you can use Hex Maniac, stuff like that, and that's really the weakness, as we see Spinner Arc probably going to be hitting the bench as my opponent levels balls for Spinner Arc and a Ariados. So we do see the Spinner Arc drop, and really, I mean, in this situation, my opponent's really doing good here. I mean, because I have no way to get out of that Gengar. That Trevenant's just sitting on the bench, and now my opponent can at least have probably 2 turns, unless I find a Floatstone to attach to the Gengar to retreat back into the Trevenant here. But, I mean, he's got some turns that he can set up that Machamp here and do some damage. And really, that's the thing. This deck, the Machamp deck, if it gets set up, it can just start hitting damage. But it's kind of difficult to set up, especially, something that hits fast. It can definitely put some damage on Machamp and put some pressure on it. We do see the Muscle Band drop, so now that Floatstone will not be going on to the Gengar. We do see an energy drop, so I'll just probably not attack the Spinner Arc here, just to put some damage on it. And, I mean, can't really do anything else in this situation. So we see a Professor's Letter, as my opponent was probably trying to play as many trainer card or item cards rather as he can, because he probably won't have very many turns where he'll have the opportunity to continue to play item cards. So that's kind of a strategy whenever you're playing a a Seismitoad or an item locked deck, that you have to be careful and really make sure that if you have an opportunity where you can play some item cards, do that before they lock you out of item cards. In most situations, you'll have at least a turn. But the thing is, with Trevenant, sometimes you won't have that turn to actually play some item cards. And that's where the strength of this deck comes, is with that turn 1 item lock. And sometimes you don't have any draw supporters in your hand, and you're pretty stuck. And that's where the strength of Gengar Trevenant comes in. So we see another Spinark hit the bench, and so now my opponent really needs to find energy here. He wasn't able to find one last turn, so that's kind of a bummer for him because he's got to take an opportunity of this chance here where I'll be just kind of sitting on the bench and trying to power things up. And that other Lysander definitely hurt, Lysandering up the other Gengar, another turn that he has the opportunity to stall with. And we do see that energy drop to the Machamp, so that is definitely something there. We just had the Fighting Stadium out, so he will be able to get some damage on once he gets charged up for that second attack there. We do see just another Wally drop here, so just get into another Trevenant and hope that I can stall a little bit, have an opportunity to just get set up. And the thing is, both of these decks are a little slow to set up. Gengar can take 3 turns, but with the Trevenant, it can be a little bit or slow your opponent down a little bit, so you have the time to set up. So now at this situation, I'm kind of really stuck. I mean, I want to get out of that Gengar there, but I also want to, get other things going. I mean, if I find a Float Stone, it's kind of going to be a predicament here. Do I really want to retreat out of that Gengar, or do I want to attach it to a Trevenant just to get that down there? I mean, because I already have one Float Stone on the field, and I have no way to get those Float Stones back into my deck, so that can be kind of an issue. We'll see a Birch from my opponent's side. And this is probably the best, second best support in the game. Not as good as a Sycamore, but it'll do. And it looks like he hit Tails on the roll there. We'll soon find out. Yes, he did hit Tails. He does get that other energy, so next turn he will be able to charge up that Machamp and start hitting for some big damage. Really, in my situation, I've got to just hope to draw that double colorless energy here, get that Gengar charged up, and start getting into those Trevenants and preventing my opponent from getting another Machamp out and getting it charged up. If I can knock out the Machamp on the field currently, my opponent can't get another one out. I might have an opportunity to make a comeback here. So we'll see a Shaman drop for a couple cards there. More than a couple, actually. And we'll see a Landorus drop. An Evo Soda, just to get out another Ariados in case I happen to target an Ariados. Really, not a big deal in this situation, because I have to do damage, I have to attack with Gengar, and that's going to poison that Machamp, and that kind of feeds the power because it already has a special condition on it, and it just becomes an issue. So it's more of a reassurance just to get another Ariados out, and really, why not? So we just see my opponent pass here. And really, I mean, oh, wow. So I just draw a pass there. Wow. My opponent is in a really good situation now because he's going to get the Muscle Band and the Strong Energy. So now he's going to be able to hit for the 70 damage that the attack does, plus another 80 because he'll be able to use the Ariados attack to put the poison on it. Muscle Band will add an extra 20. And Strong Energy will add an extra 20 onto that. So now, wow, that is just a lot of damage there. Plus the poison damage in between turns would add an extra 10 damage. And the Fighting Stadium, which will add another 20 damage. So this is really the power of this deck. Once it gets charged up, the damage just stacks and stacks and stacks. And there is really nothing that you can do about it once it gets set up. it is just a beast once it gets set up. Luckily, we do, for myself, I do see a Professor Birch. So, luckily, I did find a way to get out of that horrible hand that I had. And looks like I got a heads, maybe. Yes, it does appear that I got a heads. So, we'll see what goes on. I must have done a floatstone. Yes, I do see a floatstone in my hand, so that is something. And we'll see an Ultra Ball drop. We'll figure out what I have to discard here. I'll discard an energy switch and a basic psychic energy. And really, in this situation, I don't know how I'm going to be able to fight off this deck now. I mean, that Machamp is just doing so much damage, and my deck kind of feeds to the fire there with Machamp's attack, where it does 70 damage. If it's affected by a special condition, it does another 80 damage. And it also has all these cards that just add and stack damage, such as a Strong Energy, the Muscle Band, the Fighting Stadium, and then the poison damage from the Ariados in between turns. So it just does a massive amount of damage, and that's the thing. This deck, once it gets set up, it can just steamroll Megas, and there aren't very many cards that can do that in the format. So we'll see the Floatstone drop down to the Trevenant, and both of the Trevenants. I mean, I really need to find the double colors energy, so, yeah. I play down the Shaman, which, in this case, I should have, retreated the Wobbuffet, but, yeah, because the Wobbuffet would have negated Shaman's ability. So attach a Psychic Energy to the Gengar. Oh, okay, so I'm just saying that I retreated. Okay, so my opponent was fine with me saying that I had the Floatstone, so I could have retreated. That was fine with him, so yeah, he was fine with that. So for anyone who doesn't know, Wobbuffet blocks off all abilities but Psychic Pokemon when it's active. So because Wobbuffet had the Floatstone, I had free retreat. I forgot to retreat the Wobbuffet before I put down the Shaman, thus I shouldn't have actually been able to play the Shaman. My opponent was fine with it because I hadn't retreated for the turn yet, so I retreated out of the Wobbuffet afterward, and he was alright with that. So, luckily for that. Although, I mean, I just didn't find the double colors energy, which I think was one of the weaknesses here that I had, because if I could have attacked this turn, I mean, I might have had a fighting chance, because, I mean, it just doesn't look good for me right now. We'll see here what's going to happen. So you see the another energy drop down to the Machamp, and that's the thing. I was saying that if my opponent here can get that Machamp going, another one on the bench, it's going to be very difficult for me to come back. And we see one of the Trevenants fall. See a level ball, probably just to grab a Phantom here. And that's what I'll grab here, just in case I need to charge up another Trevenant. And we'll see if I can finally get this Gengar powered up. And, I mean, those Lashners at the beginning of the game really helped my opponent a lot, giving him the ability to just stall a little bit and get away from those Trevenants so he could have a couple turns with item cards. And that's, again, a weakness of this deck here. So we see a Teammates that gets played. And I'll grab that Psychic Energy that I've been waiting forever to get. And I'll also grab a Gengar. So, I mean, I can get another Gengar charged up. I mean, at this point, my opponent only has 3 more prize cards to take. So, he'll take out probably a Trevenant here, and it really isn't necessary to charge up another Gengar, but alright. So I'm just going to retreat the Gengar, or retreat the Trevenant into the Gengar, use Dark Corridor, and run into the Wobbuffet, which I thought at the time, I realized just a second afterward here, that was a misplay that I made. I thought that the Wobbuffet would thus, cancel off the Ariados' ability, so my opponent wouldn't be able to knock me out, because the attack wouldn't do the extra 80 damage. But Machamp is already poisoned, so it would do enough damage to knock the Wobbuffet out because I Dark Corridored, poisoning the Machamp. So that was a misplay there. I mean, I should have gotten the Trevenant just because I could have prevented my opponent from charging up that other Machamp there on the bench. So that was a big misplay there. Yeah. So that's what we'll see there. We'll see energy go on to the Machamp. And just see that Wobbuffet get knocked out. So I only have 2 more prizes to take. So, I mean, at this point, I'll be able to knock out the Machamp. So, I guess I could find the escape rope, maybe. That could be something. Although, I think I just discarded that escape rope. I should have kept that escape rope because, if I had the escape rope after I knocked out Machamp, I could have stalled a little bit. But my opponent did have a fighting energy, so he would have been able to find a way out of it. Although that could have stalled for a turn because he wouldn't be able to attack with the Machamp because it wouldn't have enough energy. So that is something. And do I only have 1 card left in my deck? I think I just Sycamored. Oh no, it's not. Oh, is there? Oh no, there's not. There's like 5 or 6 cards in my deck. I thought I had gone down to just 1 card. That would be really bad. So we'll see the Muscle Band drop down to the Gengar. And the Roller Skates, which hit a heads. It got out of the camera's angle though. But it was a heads, I guess. And we'll see the double colorless energy go on to the Gengar EX on the bench. See a energy retrieval. So I'll be able to grab an energy for next turn to attach that Gengar on the bench. And it doesn't look like I have another energy in the discard pile, so I'll just grab the one, I guess. But I mean, I only need really 1. So I'll attack with the Gengar, knocking out the Machamp, and I'll be able to take 2 prizes here. And I'll go into probably the Trevenant. That's probably just the most logical thing here. I wouldn't go into the Shaman, obviously, because that would be a horrible play, because that's just handing the game pretty much over right there. At least I'll get an extra turn with the Trevenant. Actually, I'm only starting to realize how much of how close this game actually was, because with that misplay of the Wobbuffet, I could have actually given myself turn to an extra turn to stall a little bit to knock out the extra turn to knock out the Machamp here. Possibly. I mean, the game is quite close, even though it doesn't really appear. So we'll just see that Trevenant get knocked out. We'll see the Gengar come up. And see an energy attach to the Gengar. And at this point, the game is over. I won't be able to knock out that Machamp EX in the active spot, so that is game over. Unless I can find a way to switch out, but I discarded the escape rope with the Ultra Ball, so that's something there. I only appear to have something like 5 or not, just a few cards left in my deck. And I'm just gonna play out the game here, be a good sport. And I don't really know. Oh, I'm going to Sycamore in my hand away. So just discarding everything. Probably I'm just gonna have some fun, I guess, with the game. And I'll have one card left. There's just one card left. There. And I'm just gonna Trainer's Mail. Now we're just goofing around, cutting a one card deck. If you can even call it a deck, I guess. Now I'm just reading the Machamp to, check to make sure if the game really is truly over. But it really is. So I'm just gonna Dark Corridor and I'll go into the Shaman, and that's a good game there. So the game is over with. Oh, the escape rope was in my prize card, so that's where it was. That could have actually won me the game there. Wow. So I lose the game. Wow. I lost. Wow. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys later in the next video. Bye.